One of the most important pieces of equipment in every screen print shop is a conveyor dryer. The conveyor dryer is used to cure the ink onto the product. Now, curing the ink is essentially doing more than just drying it. We are ensuring that it is durable, whether it needs to be washed and have essentially no cracking or peeling whatsoever from it. Now, if you don't buy a high quality conveyor dryer, you can't always guarantee that you're going to have the accurate temperature it requires for the ink to, again, properly be cured to the garment. And if it's not properly cured, it will have all types of problems, and that will upset your customers. Now, the conveyor dryer, again, because it is the last piece of equipment kind of used in the entire process, if you go through all of those steps and you don't properly cure the ink, you've wasted all of that effort. When it comes to choosing a conveyor dryer, there are many different options. Conveyor dryers are very simple as far as what they're made up of. At its core, a conveyor dryer has a belt. This belt just spins in a continuous clockwise or counterclockwise mode, depending on your dryer, and what direction you want it to be going. And what we'll do is, after a shirt has been printed, we will just simply take it and throw it onto the actual dryer for it to go inside into the chamber where we have several heating elements. Those heating elements have a bunch of coils. Essentially, it's several flash dryers inside of the chamber that then cure the ink to the garment, ensuring that it will be durable through many washing cycles. Now, not every dryer is built the same and has the same size and so forth. As far as the capacity of the dryer, you need to be looking at what screen printing presses are going to be feeding it. If you have an automatic that can output 600 shirts an hour, you need a conveyor dryer that can handle all of those shirts that could potentially be put on the belt. Now, the width of the belt and the length of the chamber will really dictate how many garments can be cured using your conveyor dryer. So the longer the chamber, the longer amount of time that the product can be under heat, and essentially the belt can be sped up, and that can be allowing more garments to be fed through there. Or if it's a wider belt, more products can be fed across the belt all at the same time to be cured. Now, when it comes to conveyor dryers, again, it's pretty much just a belt that continuously runs in a loop. We have several heating elements, and then we have a control panel that allows us to essentially set the speed of the belt itself, and then the amount of temperature that is being applied to our product. If we're going on synthetic materials like polyester and nylon and so forth, we're going to be needing to use a much lower curing temperature. And again, that's going to be all based around the ink that you're using to cure it onto the garment. Now, because the heating aspect is so important to make sure that the ink is properly cured, you need to be testing your dryer's heat itself. Now, there's a few different ways you can do this. You can use something called temperature strips, which you run through the dryer, and then it'll kind of tell you how hot it truly is. Another way is to use something called a heat temperature gun that you can then shoot the ink as it's going through the chamber, and you can get a reading of how high it is. Or you can purchase what's called a heat thermometer probe. It looks like essentially a donut that you insert, and allows it to go into the middle of the chamber and give you a really accurate reading. Now, that temperature thermometer is not cheap, but is worth every penny, because again, the conveyor dryer must be delivering the accurate temperature in order to make sure that the ink is properly being cured to the garment. Another thing to think about as far as using the heating element, it can be raised or lower, and you typically want to be around 4 or so inches from the garment. So if we're running t-shirts, we're going to keep it at kind of the lowest setting, but if we're going to be doing sweatshirts, jackets, or something, we might need to be raising it so that it just naturally has still the same distance from the product. Lastly, realize that conveyor dryers use a ton of amount of power, and there's a couple of different ways we can power them. Conveyor dryers are typically powered by either natural gas or electricity. If it is electricity, it is going to be using a lot of voltage and amps, and you're going to need to be hardwiring the conveyor dryer most likely directly to your electrical panel. So you're gonna have to locate this thing next to it, or have your electrician come out and make it so that it all works as it should. The other option is, if you have natural gas on your property, try to take advantage of that, because it is much cheaper than electricity typically, and you can power your conveyor dryer by natural gas, and you're gonna need to hire an HVAC company to run the gas line so that you can easily hook up to it. One more thing to think about: the conveyor dryer puts off a lot of heat, and in the winter it can be used to heat an entire shop virtually, and in the summer you want to exhaust that heat out of your building. So it's a good idea to purchase some ductwork and make it so that you can essentially heat the building using the conveyor dryer in the winter, depending on your shop size, and then again in the summer we want to get rid of the heat as much as possible. If you have any questions on how to select the perfect conveyor dryer and how to use it in your screen print shop, please do not hesitate contacting us. Thank you.